On the 7th and last day of the July 95 retreat, we will read selections from writings or recordings of religious teachers, the past and present, and a few poets. 2 to be correct. These are usually more or less the same selections over the years. Some are being added, some taken away. I apologize for the sameness of a lot of them, for people who have been here for a long time, although I've never heard complaints about it. It takes a lot of time to find a new selection which is really fitting into this context here. And hard to do better than what we already have. It's also interesting to watch. Does the mind say, oh, I've heard this before, and wander? Or can it listen freshly to something even though one thinks one has heard it before? Maybe one has not. This tape will not be for sale since it is copyrighted material. First selection is from the Zen teaching of Wang Po, recorded by his disciple Pe Su about 1,000 years ago. Wang Po was a Zen teacher in China, and his disciple was the governor of the province where he taught. He was also a Buddhist scholar. Some of the Sanskrit words are given in English, are read in English. And this is not a presentation of Wang Po's writings because sentences, words, paragraphs have been left out. It is just to see whether this, listening to this, clarifies things. Because it's somewhat different words and ways of putting it. The Buddhas referred to here do not refer to actual historical personages like Gautama Buddha, but to an enlightened being or whatever that is. The Master said to me, all the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. It is not green nor yellow, and has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of young or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, measures, names, traces, and comparisons. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. It is like the boundless void which cannot be fathomed or measured. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there is no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and so seek externally for Buddhahood. By their very seeking, they lose it. For that is using the Buddha to seek for the Buddha, or using mind to grasp mind. Even though they do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain to it. People do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, the Buddha will appear before them. For this mind is Buddha, and this Buddha is all living beings. It is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. Mind is like the void in which there is no confusion or evil, as when the sun wheels through it, shining upon the four corners of the world. For when the sun rises and illuminates the whole earth, the void gains not in brilliance. And when the sun sets, the void does not darken. The phenomena of light and dark alternate with each other, but the nature of the void remains unchanged. If you look upon the Buddha as presenting a pure, bright, or enlightened appearance, or upon sentient beings as presenting a foul, dark, or mortal-seeming appearance, these conceptions resulting from attachment to form will keep you from supreme knowledge, even after passing as many eons as there are sands in the Ganges. There's only the one mind, and not a particle of anything else on which to lay hold. If you students of the way do not awake to this mind, you will overlay it with conceptual thought. You will seek the Buddha outside yourselves. You will remain attached to forms, pious practices, and so on, all of which are harmful and not at all the way to supreme knowledge. Though others may talk of the way of the Buddhas as something to be reached by pious practices and by scripture study, you must have nothing to do with such ideas. A perception, sudden as blinking, that subject and object are one, no division, will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding you awake to the truth. Your true nature is something never lost, even in moments of delusion, nor is it gained at the moment of enlightenment. It depends on nothing and it is attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, spotless beauty. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. Absolute meaning, verbally, literally, non-dependent. Ah, it is a jewel beyond all price. Question, how can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? And of course the judgments that go with it. Wangpo, by realizing that though you eat the whole day through, no single grain has passed your lips, and that a day's journey has not taken you a single step forward. Also, by uniformly abstaining from such notions as self and other, Do not permit the events of your daily lives to bind you, but never withdraw yourselves from them. Avoid the error of thinking in terms of past, present, and future. The past has gone. The present is a fleeting moment. The future is not yet come. When you practice meditation, sit in the proper position, whatever that is for whoever. Stay perfectly tranquil. Oh, sometimes I leave this perfect out. Who can stay perfectly tranquil? Do not permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. Well, disturbance happens. Can it be left alone? This alone is what is called liberation. Excerpts from Krishnamurti's talks and writings compiled by the annual gathering 1919 of the Krishnamurti Foundation in India. Ojai 1940. I personally feel that the world is myself, and that what I do creates either peace or sorrow in the world that is myself. And as long as I do not understand myself, I cannot bring peace to the world. So my immediate concern is myself, not selfishly, not merely to alter myself in order to gain greater happiness, greater sensations, greater successes. For as long as I do not understand myself, I must live in pain and sorrow, and cannot discover an enduring peace and happiness. And from the Star Bulletin in 1932, the individual problem is the world problem. If the individual has found happiness, has created order within himself, then he will create order in the world around him. And in helping others to solve their own individual problems, he will help to solve the world problems. You think that in seeking the liberation of the self, there is a suggestion of egotism. You think that to be happy is a selfish realization. You think that to be free from all sorrow and strife is a desertion of the world. This is a misconception. Liberation is the very antithesis of the sense of ego, of the I-ness. It is the ultimate realization for all people. And Bombay 1955, questioner, what is the self-knowledge of which you speak, and how can I acquire it? Krishnamurti, it is very simple. The first step is the last step in self-knowledge. The beginning is the end. The first step is what matters, because self-knowledge is not something you can learn from another. No one can teach you self-knowledge. You have to find out for yourself. It must be your own discovery. And that discovery is not something tremendous, fantastic. It is very simple. After all, to know yourself is to watch your behavior, your words, what you do in your everyday relationships. That is all. Begin with that, and you will see how extraordinarily difficult it is to be aware. Just to watch the manner of your behavior, the words you use to your servant, to your boss, the attitude you have with regards to people, to ideas, and to things. Just watch your thoughts, your motives, in the mirror of relationship. And you will see that the moment you watch, you want to correct. You say, this is good and that is bad. I must do this and not that. When you see yourself in a mirror of relationship, your approach is one of condemnation or justification. Therefore, you distort what you see. Whereas, if you simply observe in that mirror your attitude with regard to people, to ideas, and to things, if you just see the fact without judgment, without condemnation or acceptance, then you will find that that very perception has its own action. That is the beginning of self-knowledge. Don't say, I must be aware every minute, because that is just another manifestation of our foolishness when we want to get somewhere, when we want to arrive at a particular state. What matters is to be aware of yourself and to keep on being aware without accumulating. Because the moment you accumulate, then from that center you judge. Self-knowledge is not a process of accumulation. It is a process of discovery from moment to moment in relationship. A selection from I Am That by Nisargadatta. Contemporary religious teacher who died in the early 80s, and he was in his 80s, in India. This selection is called, probably by the editor, Obsession with the Body. Questioner: Maharaj, you are sitting in front of me and I am here at your feet. What is the basic difference between us? Nisargadatta: there is no basic difference. Questioner: still there must be some real difference. I come to you, you do not come to me. Nisargadatta: because you imagine differences, you go here and there in search of superior people. Questioner: you too are a superior person. You claim to know the real while I do not. Nisargadatta: did I ever tell you that you do not know and therefore you are inferior? Let those who invented such distinctions prove them. I do not claim to know what you do not. In fact, I know much less than you do. Questioner. Your words are wise, your behavior noble, your grace all-powerful. Nisargadatta. I know nothing about it all and see no difference between you and me. My life is a succession of events, just like yours. Only I am detached and see the passing show as a passing show, while you stick to things and move along with them. Questioner. What made you so dispassionate? Nisargadatta. Nothing in particular. It so happened that I trusted my guru. He told me I'm nothing but myself, and I believed him. Trusting him, I behaved accordingly and ceased caring for what was not me nor mine. In this tradition, the self means the whole thing, the whole truth, not this ego self. Questioner, why were you so lucky to trust your teacher fully, while our trust is nominal and verbal? Nisargadatta, who can say? It happened so. Things happen without cause and reason, and after all, what does it matter who is who? Your high opinion of me is your opinion only. Any moment you may change it. Why attach importance to your opinions, even to your own? Questioner, still you are different. Your mind seems to be always quiet and happy, and miracles happen around you. Nisargadatta, I know nothing about miracles, and I wonder whether nature admits exceptions to her laws, unless we agree that everything is a miracle. As to my mind, there is no such thing. There is consciousness in which everything happens. It is quite obvious and within the experience of everybody. You just do not look carefully enough. Look well and see what I see. Questioner, what do you see? Nisargadatta, I see what you too could see, here and now, but for the wrong focus of your attention. You give no attention to yourself. Your mind is all with things, people, and ideas, never with yourself. Bring yourself into focus. Become aware of your own existence. See how you function. Watch the motives and the results of your actions. Study the prison you have built around yourself by inadvertence. By knowing what you are not, you come to know yourself. One thing is certain. The real is not imaginary. It is not a product of the mind. Once you are convinced that you cannot say truthfully about yourself anything except I am, and that nothing that can be pointed at can be yourself, you are no longer intent on verbalizing what you are. All you need is to get rid of the tendency to define yourself. All definitions apply to your body only and to its expressions. Emotions, sensations, will as expressions of the body. Thinking, expression of the body. Body, mind is all one. Once this obsession with a body goes, you will revert to your natural state spontaneously and effortlessly. The only difference between us is that I am aware of my natural state while you are bemused. Just like gold made into ornaments has no advantage over gold dust, except when the mind makes it so. So we are one in being. We differ only in appearance. We discover it by being earnest, by searching, inquiring, questioning daily and hourly, by giving one's life to this discovery. A few selections from Being and Becoming by Vimala Thakur, an Indian woman, now living exclusively in India. She used to travel to this country and Europe. And the book gives some of the dialogues which took place at Dalhousie during the summer of 1989. We are talking about an alternative way of living, which is a meditative way of living. Acquire knowledge, let it flow through you, let it be utilized in its relevant field without creating a knower. Without thought creating a knower. If we look at the roots of all human misery, we will find that misery is built upon our stupidity. We can also say our stupefaction. We do not know how to relate to the social structures and use them without identification, without creating a sense of authority out of them. Structures are not sacred. It is only life that is sacred. Patterns have no sacredness, whether you create them in the name of religion, spirituality, or politics. It is the pattern-free, structure-free, virgin dynamism of life that is sacred, that is divine. Wherever it has been touched by thought, it has been manipulated, it has been structured. It has a utility, but not sanctity. It has a utility, but not authority. Knowledge itself has no power to bind you. It is the creation of the knower that is the obstacle. You have a beautiful, sensitive body, and the sensitivity gets into touch with its respective objects outside, and they bring sensations. Sensations are converted back to electric impulses, and the brain interprets them. It's a marvelous process, what we call experiencing. Contact with the outside world through the senses, which are very delicate, very tender. It is quite hard and arduous work to keep the sensual system pure, healthy, supple, and elastic. Let the experiences flow through the sensual system. Nothing wrong in a sensual sexual experience, but you create an experiencer and get stuck in the experience and its likes and its dislikes, its value structures, its preferences, its prejudices, its theories. If the sensual contact with objects is allowed to flow through you without creating an experiencer, then the limited human-made world cannot corrupt you. As the oneness of life manifesting itself into manyness does not get corrupted, does not lose its vitality, does not get mutilated. In the same way, you acquire knowledge and you appear as an individual, playing the role of a father, mother, brother, sister, son, You are one appearing as many. There's no identification with the fatherness, sonness, daughterness, sisterness. And you don't tie so many knots inside, but play the roles sanely, completely, with the magnificence of an inner equipoise. Then you're appearing as many. You're acquiring knowledge of structures, shall not corrupt you. This is the way of meditative living. The word meditation has been identified with psychophysical exercises, concentrations, methods, techniques, Kundalini Shakti paths. The word has been abused and misused in such a way. No authority and no effort. Freedom from authority and freedom from the struggle of efforts. Once you know that these human-made enclosures are only to be lived in, then the sense of comparing yourself with others, he has a palace and I have a hut, he has millions and I only have hundreds, the sense of comparison and the ambition for competition disappears. Your economic life becomes simple. No vanity, no pride about your scholarship, erudition, and your social life becomes simple. You do not move around with a begging bowl for sympathy, acceptance, prestige, acknowledgement. Reconciled to the limitations, to the enclosures we live in, you live and move in it. Meditation has no repetition at all. It is moment to moment. In the moment of relating, you are living. In the moment of aloneness, you are dying. It is living and dying, like inhaling and exhaling. To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody or being something. Is not that the content of death and dying? To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody. Sinner, saint, holy, knowledgeable, respected, rich, or poor. To be alone is to die to being something according to the definition of society, according to the value structure of religions. Physically isolating yourself may not lead you to the aloneness. It may not. That is what we are afraid of, dying to the sense of being somebody. Dying to all the images you have built up about yourself is being alone. The way we are tackling the theme may be unusual, unheard of to many. It is a non-conventional way, a non-traditional approach. But I'm really grateful that life brings you and me together. Some poems from One Robe, One Bowl by Ryokan, translated by John Stevens. Ryokan was born 1758, and he retired to the mountains as a recluse, although he loved to visit the children, be with people. He was very lonesome for someone. You wonder who that someone was. He loved to drink with the farmers too, and write poetry. Stone steps, a mound of lustrous green moss. The wind carries the scent of cedar and pine. The rain has stopped, and it is beginning to clear. I call to the children as I walk to get some village sake. After drinking too much, I happily write these verses. Once again, the children and I are fighting a battle using spring grasses, now advancing, now retreating, each time with more refinement. Twilight, everyone has returned home. The bright round moon helps me endure the loneliness. Listening to the evening rain in my hermitage, the great way, I braid spring flowers into a ball. The future? If a visitor brings these questions, I have only the tranquility of the hermitage to offer. Late at night, the faint sound of someone pounding rice. Dew drips from the bamboo onto the firewood pile, and the plants along the garden are also moist. Frogs croak in the distance, but then seem very close. Fireflies light low, then high. Wide awake, sleep is far off. Smoothing out the pillow, I let my thoughts drift. An evening dream. Everything must have been an illusion. I cannot explain clearly even one part of what I saw. Yet in the dream it seemed as if the truth were in front of my eyes. This morning, awake, is it not the same dream? A thief has stolen my pillow and mat. Why did he break into my hermitage? The door is never locked. The night is ending, and I sit alone by the window. A sparse rain falls gently against the bamboo grove. In the distance, frogs croak in the mountain rice fields, the evening's single song. Unable to sleep, I hear the voice of a young deer rising from a mountain ridge. The branches that will be used for this autumn's firewood are still blooming. Please gather some summer grasses wet with dew and come visit me. I stretch out for a nap in my little hut. In the fields, frogs chant their songs, and the birds in the bamboo grove sing along. In the pond near my hut, the lotus flowers, covered with dew, bloom in a row. Lying on my grass pillow, dreaming about this dream world again, lonely, fitful sleep. As I watch the children happily playing, without realizing it, my eyes fill with tears. Thinking about the people in this floating world far into the night, my sleeve is wet with tears. The thief left it behind, the moon, at the window. Poems by Mary Oliver, a contemporary American poet. This is from House of Light. The Kingfisher. The kingfisher rises out of the black wave like a blue flower. In his beak he carries a silver leaf. I think this is the prettiest world, so long as you don't mind a little dying. How could there be a day in your life that doesn't have its splash of happiness? There are more fish than there are leaves on 1,000 trees. And anyway, the kingfisher wasn't born to think about it, or anything else. When the waves snap shut over his blue head, the water remains water. Hunger is the only story he has ever heard in his life that he could believe. I don't say he's right, neither do I say he's wrong. Religiously he swallows the silver leaf with its broken red river, and with a rough and easy cry I couldn't rouse out of my thoughtful body if my life depended on it, he swings back over the bright sea to do the same thing, to do it as I long to do something, anything, perfectly. The Notebook. 6 a.m. The small pond turtle lifts its head into the air like a green toe. It looks around. What it sees is the whole world swirling back from darkness. A red sun rising over the water, over the pines, and the wind lifting, and the water striders heading out, and the white lilies opening their happy bodies. The turtle doesn't have a word for any of it. The silky water, or the enormous blue morning, or the curious affair of its own body. On the shore, I am so busy scribbling and crossing out, I almost miss seeing him paddle away through the wet black forest. More and more the moments come to me. How much can the right word do? Now a few of the lilies are a faint flamingo inside their white hearts, and there is still time to let the last roses of the sunrise float down into my uplifted eyes. from new and selected poems. The sun. Have you ever seen anything in your life more wonderful than the way the sun every evening, relaxed and easy, floats toward the horizon and into the clouds or the hills or the rumpled sea and is gone? And how it slides again out of the blackness every morning on the other side of the world, like a red flower streaming upward on its heavenly oils, say on a morning in early summer, at its perfect imperial distance. And have you ever felt for anything such wild love? Do you think there's anywhere in any language a word billowing enough for the pleasure that fills you as the sun reaches out, as it warms you, as you stand there empty-handed? Or have you too turned from this world? Or have you too gone crazy for power, for things? Singapore. In Singapore, in the airport, a darkness was ripped from my eyes. In a women's restroom, one compartment stood open. A woman knelt there washing something in the white bowl. Disgust argued in my stomach, and I felt in my pocket for my ticket. A poem should always have birds in it. Kingfishers, say, with their bold eyes and gaudy wings. Rivers are pleasant, and of course, trees. A waterfall, or if that's not possible, a fountain rising and falling. A person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. When the woman turned, I could not answer her face. Her beauty and her embarrassment struggled together, and neither could win. She smiled, and I smiled. What kind of nonsense is this? Everybody needs a job. Yes, a person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. But first we must watch her as she stares down at her labor, which is dull enough. She's washing the tops of the airport ashtrays, as big as hubcaps, with a blue rag. Her small hands turn the metal, scrubbing and rinsing. She does not work slowly nor quickly, but like a river. Her dark hair is like the wing of a bird. I don't doubt for a moment that she loves her life. And I want her to rise up from the crust and the slop and fly down to the river. This probably won't happen. But maybe it will. If the world were only pain and logic, who would want it? Of course it isn't. Neither do I mean anything miraculous, but only the light that can shine out of a life. I mean the way she unfolded and refolded the blue cloth, the way her smile was only for my sake. I mean, the way this poem is filled with trees and birds. White Pine is the name of the book, and the name of the poem is Work. How beautiful this morning was Pasture Pond. It had lain in the dark all night, catching the rain on its broad back. All day I work with the linen of words and the pins of punctuation. All day I hang out over a desk, grinding my teeth, staring. Then I sleep. Then I come out of the house, even before the sun is up, and walk back through the pine woods to Pasture Pond. We will end here for today.